Hello, I'm Frank Markovich. Welcome to my layout. I model in On3, which is a little different than most people model in On30, but I started On3 because I'm modeling after the Westside Lumber Company, which is in Tuolumne, California. But I've changed the name to the Twain, Harte, and Sonora Pass. That's my road name, as if they took over Westside when Westside ended operations. So my layout is really a circular almost one, loop to loop, and I've been building it for over 20 years. I actually started earlier in another home and in HON3 and switched to ON3. So let's take a look at the layout. What you're going to see today is a train running through what I model, which is the Sierras, particularly the town of Tuolumne. I model in ON3 now. I started in HON3, and I switched because I built this layout, part of this layout, in my first home in Daly City, and I built it as an HON3. The trains, geared locomotives at that time, model HON3, would run about 3 feet and then stall. No matter how clean the track was, the wheels, everything. I went to a PCR convention in Santa Rosa. There was a precision scale layout, part of a layout, 3-foot section. An ON3 train ran back and forth. I stood there for hours watching it. It never stalled. I said goodbye to HON3 then and switched to ON3. I model after the Westside, and I'm inspired by Westside. My wife and I were married up in Sonora, and we had a place in Twain, Harte, and I loved the area. I'd ride the Sierra, and we would go up and ride. When my first son was young, we would ride Westside in Cherry Valley, which shut down, unfortunately, before my second son was born. And I loved riding that. They had trains running and all sorts of other stuff, but I was inspired by that. The room is 16 by 22, and the layout takes up the majority of the room, although the last 4 feet is bookcases and stuff like that. The layout is a U-shape so that you can have continuous running, because I'm really a builder, not an operator. If the train runs, I'm happy with it. It doesn't have to switch or anything else. And I love just building. You'll see a lot of structures on here. I wish I could put more, but there's no room for more. We're going to now follow the train around the layout. We're going to start in Tuolumne and work our way around and cover the highlights of each of the areas. We're watching the train as it leaves the mill area and heads towards the woods. And the first structure I'd like to talk about is logging repair shed, which was totally scratch built from plans that were HO plans for logging repair shop by Fine Scale Miniatures. After that, we come to a flatbed with a donkey engine on it, and then what's called a powder house snowplow, a wood snowplow that was originally built, and they abandoned it. You'll see later what it was replaced by. From there, we move on over to a scratch-built structure. I was challenged by somebody who says, "Oh, you spend months building." I built this at a PCR convention in 2 days. And after that, we come to the stone building. It has a full interior. A number of the structures have removable rooftops so you can see the interior. And lastly, we come to a scratch-built caboose. Westside had wooden water tanks. I scratch-built the water tank. I did get some parts from other kits that were out there. And then from there, there's a Westside snowplow the regular snowplow they used that had the metal plow, and I scratch built it. And I built about 4 Westside snowplows, 3 of them in On3, and when I was in HO, I built one in HON3. There's Christine's, which is a dress shop. That was actually a Stony Creek kit that I built. And then we get to a couple trucks that I scratch built. Mick Greenberg wrote a book on trucks and scratch building, and I followed that. He was a friend of mine. So the green one there is scratch built, and then there's one that's a white and sort of rust pink. Then there's Mike's, that one, it's a scratch built structure. From there's a couple other structures that were built from Stony Creek. And lastly, there's an engine house built from a kit also by Stony Creek. Most of what I build is scratch built, but there's a number of really good kits out there in O-scale. Sort of what I'm thinking with this engine running around is they had an emergency out in the woods where there was a derailment somewhere. We'll keep the derailment theme. And I'm running this engine out to help with pulling the cars back to the town. About a third of the way up the hill, there's a cutout because I had a problem with the track and I couldn't reach it. I decided to cut it out. I do regret that. The backdrop was done by a friend, Dave Biondi, and he tried to teach me how to paint backdrops. And he found out that painting a picture is not my strong point. I'm a model builder. I'm really good at finish on models, but I'm not good at painting particularly trees. And he charged me a reasonable thing that was given to charity. He was in a club with me with the Yosemite Short Line, and he did it before the scenery was in. My favorite stuff in modeling is building models, but I also really like scenery. And so that's part of my philosophy. The grass is modeled after California in the late spring and early summer, where it turned a slight yellow. And as we move further on, the rock walls as a cutaway. My whole thing in modeling is trying to make things look as realistic as possible. As we're heading uphill, the scenery is changing from more of the foothills to the mountain area. This would be more like Cherry Lake area more than Tuolumne. All the track is hand laid, all the ties are distressed, and then I use driftwood and then darker stain to stain the ties. Now, if I had to do it again, I would use flex track on the spots you can't see because it's a lot of work. Every tie is spiked on both sides to both rails, and it's a lot of work, and you can't see it. The train is going to come down and come out the tunnel. It comes through a hidden loop that starts a ways back. And the scene above is a scene of where the logging takes place. There's a crawler, a tractor, and a Surrey Parker log loader, along with a water tank, and there's plenty of trees, and there's a logger cabin. As it pulls out of the tunnel, it passes Frankie's place, which was scratch built. The windows open and close, the door moves, you can open and close it. And it's totally scratch built in the style of a wooden structure out in the woods in the early 20th century. And from there, it heads down towards the town and returns to Tuolumne City. This will be the last time this layout actually operates. We're moving and we'll have to tear it down, but I'm saving all the structures, rolling stock, engine, trees, etc., and they'll be part of a new layout. And the new layout will be a little bit different in that I'll be able to reach all the track without standing on something or crawling on. I won't have to crawl underneath. It'll be dead rail, blue NAMI. It just makes total sense. I will not hand lay my track again, at least not in areas that can't be seen. I may hand lay out in foreground places where it can be seen. I've had a great time building this. This layout's been here a lot of years, more than I want to mention, and I'm hoping in the new home I'll have a layout that will last a long time. I thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something from this, take something away. Model railroading is fun, and I've had a lot of fun. I can't count the hours I've had down here. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the new layout.